Namaskar. My pranams to the respected Swamiji and the Venerable Co-Chair. So I'm very privileged to address this gathering. The Global Hindu-Buddhist Initiative, there was a PowerPoint. Huh? अच्छा, ठीक है, छोड़ दो. The Global Hindu-Buddhist Initiative started more than 2,200 years ago by the Maurya Chakravarti Ashoka, and I think it's again starting now. And we have heard all aspects of conflict avoidance, environment consciousness, importance of dialogue. But there are 2-3 background points I want to start with. The environment crisis we are talking is indeed a modern crisis. 200-300 years ago, when India, China, East Asia, they used to sort of have 70% of the world economy between themselves, there was no environment crisis. So this is not, they were not consuming 2 times the earth or whatever, as our Venerable Lady was saying. So it's not something inherent in human genetic makeup that we consume, procreate, and it's a product of a particular worldview. It's a product of a worldview which got reaffirmed during European Enlightenment and the emergence of modern science and technology. And it's that worldview which has been thrust upon and partially adopted by the whole world, including the Hindu-Buddhist world, unfortunately, that we have this environmental crisis. And if we have to come out of it, we have to look at the other worldview that used to be there, and that is largely there in our religion and in our society, but somehow seems to be missing in our science, in our politics. So we have to bring back that worldview. The Indians and Chinese did great amount of science, and our venerable texts think of the purpose of science. Taittiriya Upanishad says that Vijnanam Yajnam Tanute. The science is to manifest Yajna. And Yajna, according to classical Indian texts, is the discipline of producing basic goods in plenty and sharing them with all aspects of creation. So the goal of science was not to think of a conflict, domination, control of a non-human universe. The goal of science was to share with all aspects of creation, was to enhance Yajna. And the philosophical principle behind the Yajna was the understanding that Nirmalananda Swamiji talked about in the first mantra of Ishavasya Upanishad, that the entire universe is sacred. And I think 50 years ago, Lynn White created a controversy when he said the modern environmental crisis is actually due to the Judeo-Christian viewpoint, that there is almost an insistence that man should dominate nature in the scriptures. Of course, the Christian theologians reinterpreted that this dominion of nature of Old Testament should be understood as stewardship, good husbanding of nature. But it's not Bible alone that the Western civilization has been brought upon. It's the ancient Greek thought, which put man as the rational being above the rest of creation, including women. The Stoic philosophers, the great Aristotle, and then follows Aquinas, Kant, you name it. They all think that there is a reason behind why men should dominate nature, or we should not worry about nature, or the nature is something that we can deal with in whatever way we want. And that's because we have been imbued with the great logos, rational spirit. What did the Indians or the Chinese think? Indians or the Chinese never put the men, human beings, above in the scale. They gave special responsibility on them. They said that what differentiates animals or other living beings from humans is that they are governed by dharma. The others naturally follow dharma. The humans have to learn dharma and follow dharma. And dharma is to understand the natural order, the harmony in it, and to learn to perform, learn to have your life in stream with it, in accordance with it. That we have this great system, I had some photograph there of enormous amount of water reservoirs in most parts of India, especially in South India. There are more than 1 lakh of them. And they are built on a principle that you follow the natural topography, the ups and downs of the land, you follow the natural rainfall scheme, and each point hold as much water as that place can hold, let it off and reach the next reservoir, and these reservoirs are artificially built over a land mass of more than 30,000-40,000 square kilometers. And the principle was that you optimize this, that there cannot be even one more reservoir if you build this system will not work. So that's the kind of care with which you try and understand nature, follow nature, and get the bounty. So this was the principle, but the modern science was born with the understanding that we have somehow lost the spirit of dominion that was granted to us at the birth of Christianity, and we should reclaim it. This is what Bacon said, this is what Descartes said, this is what Newton's rival, the other gentleman, forget the physicist, Hooke, he said. But Bacon said something more. He said that you should put nature on the rack and make her bear witness to her truth. That a certain adversarial relation with nature was made a compelling feature of scientific investigation. And this horrendous thing today persists in an enormous way in the name of science today. I just wanted to give an example that in the name of science what we do today. There's something like about 70 billion animals which we consume as food. But this is nothing compared to about 30-40 million animals which are being tortured alive to discover what we believe are true laws of nature, what we discover are great medicines for the benefit of humanity. And this is something in which the entire modern world is a party to. Of course, we know that in America this number may be 5 million or 10 million, but it's 2 million in Japan, it's 2 million in China, it's about 1 million animals, laboratory animals in India. So we need to reacquire the Hindu-Buddhist view of understanding and viewing nature as sacred. We should reacquire the spirit of limiting our claims over nature, be more restrained, be more humble in our attitude towards nature. But for us to proclaim this worldview, which was inherent in the way we did technology, we did science, we should first come out of our collaboration with the modern world in the tremendous atrocities that it practices in the name of science. When you kill animals and eat them, you are rapaciously consuming them. But you are doing it. The Royal Society proclaims that we have a right to do so for the good of humanity. So it is this attitude that the Hindu-Buddhist world has to now first negate. That no good for humanity can come out of doing experiments on it. The Greeks even did experiment on human beings, living human beings. Mahatma Gandhi about 100 years ago, when he wrote Hind Swaraj, this was one reason why he rejected modern Western medicine. Of course, one reason was that it indulges you to commit, violate the discipline of life in the sense that we will give you medicine, you consume whatever you want, you do, go and do whatever you want. So in that sense, the science of medicine has a certain immoral aspect, he saw. It breaches your self-control. But more than that, he said that the European doctors, the European scientists, think very highly of torturing other beings for the cause. I wouldn't have minded if blood flow was not discovered by Harvey, if he had to discover it by torturing a living animal. Later on, he said that this vivisection is the blackest of all blackest crimes. And it's something akin to, what he abused in India, the practice of untouchability on 15% or 20% of our people, or the practice of racism that was there in the Western world. That vivisection is something worse than this, or as bad as this. And we are violating the limits that God has imposed on us. So there is a certain hubris in modern world which we have to puncture. And that's the main task of the Hindu-Buddhist initiative. And that's the message we have to give to the world, but that's the message we should learn to live by ourselves in a serious manner before we are able to give it to the world. Thank you, Chairman.